Welcome back to another episode of Double Take the Podcast with me, Chris Jenkins, and Josh Feemster. Today we're joined by legendary bass singer and Gold City alumni Tim Riley and his son Daniel Riley.
And we did this just in time for Father's Day.
Just in time for Father's Day. And Josh and I are both fathers, and so it's just a fest of fathers today all the way around.
A fest of fathers, that's what it is.
We're going to talk about a lot of things, go into detail with Tim and kind of how he got started in music and his time with Gold City and how he kept Danny straight on the road.
And Danny got to participate. That was the thing. He's been wearing us out. And
Danny
we're like 5 or 6 into these things, and he's already wearing us out to be sure and get him included for some reason.
That's right.
He made it.
He made it. So you'll enjoy today's episode. Well, hi, folks. We are bringing a special...
Now, why do you do that? Why do you do that? Hi, folks. Why don't you just talk?
I can.
I've been wanting to do that.
Now you got me self-conscious.
Yeah, we got to leave that on there, too, by the way.
Today we're bringing you a special episode. This is our Father's Day episode, and we have a father and son combination that is
We're focusing more on the father.
Focusing more on the father than the son. But this is something that's very special to Gold City, and that is Tim Riley and his son Daniel Riley. And for those of you who have followed Gold City for any length of time, you know the history and the legacy and the legend that Tim Riley is, and how he it's been a timeless figure in the Gold City legacy, and we're just excited to be able to talk to you today, Tim.
Yes, we are.
Well, I'm glad y'all are here.
Well, it's an honor to us. Before we get any further, I wanted to wait till we started this. I want to personally thank you for all the many years you spent out there doing what you did. I was raised up on Sand Mountain, and you spent a lot of time up there, and we'll get into that. But just what you paved for the rest of us to get to do what our dream was to do, I want to personally thank you for that. And just
You're welcome.
Thank you. Let's go into, and we got Danny. Oh, yeah. Danny, say hi to everybody.
Well, hey everybody.
You finally made it.
I did. I've been asking when they were going to have me as a guest on the Gold City podcast, and
What'd I tell you?
this is my debut. I'm excited.
But why are you getting to be on it right now?
Because I'm here with my father, and it's Father's Day. But I'll remind you, I have kids too. So
that's right.
I'm a father. So
Yeah.
Danny he's been wearing us out about when am I going to get to be on there? We're and we have 2 episodes out. This is
y'all been interviewing everybody.
Well, we have, but we hadn't released a lot of them, so just yet. But we'll get there. So hey, let's go into childhood, if you don't mind. Tell me about Kyle Cox, someone that we both knew, and just how you came up, and give us a little history on what
Kyle
a lot of people don't know.
Buddy.
Yeah.
If I wanted a cheeseburger with fries, I had it.
How much older was he than you?
A bunch.
It was 20 or 30 years. He was an adult by the time.
Yeah.
So were you already singing some, and Kyle heard you, or did you just know them, or?
Kyle, as you know, was a figure in gospel music.
Absolutely.
Around
Convention singing.
Etowah County.
Oh, yeah. Marshall County.
Yeah.
And when I got to know him, my mom and dad singing up there on the mountain and all that, me growing up in that world, he was so encouraging.
Yeah.
To us and to me as a kid. And, of course, we knew who Tim Riley was. I had not met you, obviously, at that time, but he'd always say, yeah, I taught Tim how to sing.
Well, Kyle liked to claim that.
Oh, yeah. But I had heard Kyle sing, so I knew that wasn't the case.
Well, Kyle was a good guy.
Yeah. So you were singing with him, and what was that group?
Gaz and Harmoniers.
Gaz and Harmoniers. And how old were you?
I was about 14.
Oh, wow. Already singing bass?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Now, when was that before or after the FFA quartet?
That was after
No,
the
it was
FFA
after.
quartet.
So, okay.
The FFA quartet, and then you went from. So how old were you when you did the FFA quartet?
I was a teenager.
Wow,
If
that's amazing.
Y'all that don't know what the FFA is, it's Future Farmers of America.
Oh yeah, that was a big thing in Alabama. Because see, my daddy was in that. They won like the state thing one year or something. They were really good.
Yeah.
That he was over from Arab, and there's a lot of that singing that went on over there. Sand Mountain's famous for it, but there was as much around Marshall County, Arab, and those outskirts area that it was just a thing. That's just what they did. That convention singing, quartet singing, stuff.
Steve Lacey come by to see me this last week. Him and my former pastor, David Cofield.
Oh yeah.
Steve was talking about the Powell Lacey Quartet.
Yeah, so it was that.
Powell's.
So Tom Powell, the descendants of because Tom still does right. It's going on right now. That School of Gospel Music that they do at the college up there at Sneed.
Yeah,
he leads that. He's there leading that every night. Tom is, and I think that was Rosenell's. I think Rosenell was his mom.
Yeah, that's her son.
Is that how that worked?
That's right. Yep.
But so back then, gospel music's just what you did.
Oh yeah.
I guess. What were the quartets that got you kind of wanting to? I mean, as far as wanting to do it,
Statesman.
was it Chief? Big Chief? Was that
yeah.
just was the goal?
Big Chief was a personal friend of mine.
Really?
He used to tell me, he'd say, "Son, don't shoot all your bullets at one time. Wait till it's your turn and strut."
That's good advice.
So that was
You told me that a few times through the years.
that was but now at that time you'd hear them on the radio, but they were on TV
Oh yeah.
every week, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. Martha White Flower.
Wow.
Yep.
And then I guess it went from that era to then the I guess the next big TV thing would have been the Jubilee with Les.
Gospel Singing Jubilee.
Yeah,
It was
but
on
now at the
every
same
Sunday morning.
time, because you knew the Thrasher brothers.
Oh yeah. I knew him personally.
Yeah, I've got to know some of them. I know Alan that kind of runs all their bus company and all that stuff now, but it's his dad, Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've met him a few times. But that show was a primetime Saturday night show on network television, their show. What was it, Sing Across America, or I can't remember. But anyway, that was a big, big deal. And it's just times have changed so much from back then. But was it the Statesman, was it Chief that kind of put that in you to want to go sing bass?
Oh yeah. But I remember one time they was here singing, and there used to be a restaurant here called Panorama. I'd see their bus, I'd go in and just get a piece of pie so I could stare at them.
Wow.
Well, and so when you got started, I guess, traveling as far as outside of Etowah County and the surrounding areas, it was the Dixie Echoes, right? That was the first national group that you traveled with.
Whitfield hired me.
J.G. Whitfield.
They come got me, and I went to his room. He was doing exercises. He said, "Son, has $125 a week sent to you." I said, "Sounds great."
How old were you?
I was 19.
Were you already married?
No.
Okay.
I had to get married when I got back from Vietnam.
Okay. So that and Vietnam, how long were you with them before you went to Vietnam?
I went on a 10-day run with the Statesman. Hovey hired me. I come home and sold my business. I was in the mobile home business.
Yeah.
And Hovey said he'd call me, but he hadn't called me to this day.
Oh no. Oh. So is that what got you after the Dixie Echoes thing, or?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I asked Dale for a raise. He said, "Nope."
But you went with the Dixie Echoes and were there just for a short time, and
then
you were drafted, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I come home, have my draft notice.
Yeah, and then you got back from Vietnam and got married, and then went back with the Dixie Echoes, right?
Yeah.
You were a medic in Vietnam.
Yes, sir.
I bet that was a tough. How long were you there?
13 months.
That was happening with a lot of young men back then.
Oh yeah.
That was just a normal thing. And so you got back from there and went back to the Dixie Echoes.
Yes, sir.
And that's when Dale running everything then?
Oh yeah.
He was an incredible singer.
He was.
Yeah.
You know, he sang with the Tennesseans
I didn't know that.
when Noel Fox was with them. Noel Fox was a super guy.
Wow. He was. I just remember how great of a singer Dale was. He was incredible range
Oh, yeah.
and powerful. And
I remember when he got his teeth pulled, and when he was saying "Trouble in My Way," where it says "Wash me clean," and his false teeth came out and hit the microphone.
Oh,
He looked at me and said, "You see that?" I did my Cletus thing,
oh yeah.
and he got tickled.
I guess he glued them in from then on out. He
Oh,
probably
yeah.
got a little better grip on that
Oh
deal.
yeah, he did. He found that stuff that you put in there that glue them in.
Oh yeah.
He was new at it. He was a newbie.
That's hilarious. So you asked him for a raise, and he didn't want to do it. And did that wind you up there, or
Oh,
did
yeah.
you come on home?
Danny, after Danny was born, I asked for a $25 a week raise.
Yeah.
He regretted it later.
Oh yeah.
Somebody told me.
Yeah. What year would that have been? What year were you born, Danny?
I was born in '72, and I think we were moving back to Gadsden before I was. Was it?
Old enough to remember anything.
Oh yeah, I don't remember that.
Born in Pensacola.
I was.
Okay.
In 1974, Jack Tony and I forget who it was.
It was Jack, Tony, Larry Beck, you, and Hefner,
Man.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Now I didn't know the baritone. Did you remember him?
Larry Beck, yes, he grew. I mean, he was from Gadsden, and of course, he and Dad were great friends. And of course, I knew Larry all my life, and of course, his mom was a sweet lady. Went to church with her, and every Sunday at church, she'd give me juicy fruit gum.
Oh boy.
But yeah, I knew Larry all my life, and he passed away a few years ago. But I loved Larry.
Well, he had. I mean, if you had Tim Riley singing bass and Jack Tony singing lead, you didn't really matter what was around you,
I'm
did
gonna
it?
tell you, Jack Tony was my favorite, and I'm sorry, Josh, but to this day, he's my. I mean, he had that lead voice that.
He
Incredible.
was your favorite all-time lead singer.
Yeah. Incredible, just
he had
incredible
that,
singer.
He had that cut, and he is smooth, and he was in control of his voice.
Oh, yeah.
And I just always loved Jack Tony.
And you know,
he could sing. He could still sing right up to the day he died.
right? Oh yeah. Well, he kept where he sang too. He had it right. Did he go to Leroy? Did Jack?
No.
He didn't. Did he just stumble on that naturally?
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Because it was that Leroy technique where he lived. I mean, it kept it all right up in his mask.
Yeah.
And if you haven't heard Jack Tony, go look up just some of the Gaither videos, and you'll hear Jack. I think he did "Heavenly Love" one time on there. It was
And he sang
incredible.
with the Statesman.
Yeah.
He did,
Oh
too.
yeah.
after Jake.
He took
yeah.
Jake's place.
Yep.
And that would have been that's kind of like taking Mr. Tim's place or Ivan's place or something. There's a lot of pressure probably came with that. But
Oh, yeah.
man, he was an incredible singer. So y'all, how long did you do the Southman?
Several years.
He did it. You did it up until when y'all started Gold City.
Oh, yeah.
Hefner was from Boaz.
Oh, yeah.
And-
From Sardis.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's right there where. And then Jack was from Boaz originally.
He was from
That's where
Sardis.
yeah. Well, yeah. It is Sardis. That's where I'm from too. So it's all Steve Lacey was from Sardis, but we got that Boaz address, so they always stick that pirate label on us
Yeah.
with some of that. But it is Sardis City. Sardis City.
Yeah.
So you did that until the Gold City thing
Right.
came about. Tell that story, Danny, of what you tell from stage, and we'll find out if it's truthful.
Oh yeah, I remember. I was 7 years old, and Floyd and Marianne Beck. Floyd is who started Gold City. When I was growing up, we would go over to Dahlonega. You know, him and Dad were great friends, and we'd go over there and spend a weekend or so every now and then. And,
Oh, okay.
so I knew Floyd and Marianne from the time I was just a kid. And then when Floyd started Gold City, he brought a group in from Mississippi, and that's who he was going to start Gold City with. And but I remember they had the Nugget, that old Eagle,
Yeah.
and it had a mural on the side of it of a guy panning for gold. And that bus pulled up in front of our house right over here on Belmar Circle. And, of course, I was in awe. I'd never seen anything like that. That thing, it was back in the day when carpet and cloth were popular, and there was carpet everywhere in there. And I was just in awe. But they all came into the house, and I remember them singing around an upright piano that we had. And before I knew it, the gentleman that sang bass with Christian Ayers, who became Gold City, decided he didn't want to move over to Dahlonega.
They were out of Mississippi.
Yes, they were out.
Tupelo.
Yeah.
So that's when they came and they sang together, and next thing I knew, we were moving to Dahlonega.
So that was that Jerry? That was Jerry Ritchie, and then was it Bob Oliver that was singing tenor?
Yeah.
At that time, who was the lead? Do y'all remember?
Jerry was the lead.
That's right.
Ken Trussell was the baritone.
Ken, and then that was the same. Will and Brian came on board when you did the live album, and was it '82? So Brian was there at that point, but then Ken was singing and Jerry on there.
Yes.
And to a lot of people, that's the first, like that album was the Here's Gold City moment from a fan perspective. Because that's had incredible songs on it. Robe of Light was on there.
Yep. No Other Word for Grace.
No Other Word.
What a Lovely Name. That they had just signed with the Heartwarming Company. That album was the first. I think the first. Maybe I've Got a Feeling. I can't remember, but right in there they had just signed with the Heartwarming Company, which Benson on that.
Yeah.
And so that album kind of, that was the reason that so many people were identified with that group and that album, because that got them more nationwide notoriety, I think.
So but what people don't know, and a lot of people don't know now, the listeners that we have now, y'all would leave and go sing and be gone for a month.
Oh, yeah.
That was just how you did it back then, wasn't it?
Yeah. I hear these boys griping, and they're doing 4 days a week.
Yeah. I'm one of those griping, so.
I said, well, have you prayed about it, boys? You pray for the Lord to bless this group. And now that he's doing it, you're not happy.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
I said, will you be happy with anything?
Dad has a way of telling it like it is.
Yeah, just cuts the
If you don't want to hear what his feelings, don't ask him.
Well, and back then you had to do whatever you had to do to make ends meet.
Oh,
and
yeah.
To everybody had families, and
that it was a lot of. Love offering. It's just whatever you got.
Oh, yeah.
That's why you had to keep going, and that was we forget about a full band. It wasn't just it was. It's a bass guitar, piano, and typically a guitar player, and then the quartets. Y'all had 8 people riding the bus, not counting the bus. 9. Was that the bus driver?
Had a 5-piece band.
5-piece. Wow. Golly bum. So things get tight when Joel and Jackson go with us.
Oh, yeah. We're spoiled now.
There's no doubt we're spoiled.
We've typically got 7 people including the driver.
Yeah.
And,
it's like when somebody gets somewhere.
Of course, when I started traveling with Gold City back in '96, we had 9 on the bus, and that's all we knew.
Yeah.
But you put 9 people on our bus today, and everybody.
Oh, no.
You've got everybody's. Don't have their space and all that. Bunch of whiners. I tell the guys every now and then they'd have never made it back in those days.
Well, the thing, you do say that, but I think about it, that was what was normal.
It was normal. Now, if we were to go back to having 9, 10 people on the bus,
you couldn't handle it.
It would get on my nerves.
Yeah.
But I'm older now, and I don't have the patience I used to have. And
so, Gary,
I remind myself of my dad a lot because he was traveling with a bunch of kids, later on, and we'd get on his nerves.
You were about 10 years older than like Gary,
Yeah.
because when he came with Gold City, he was 18 or 19 years old.
Yeah.
But you were a good. How old were you? So that started in 80 when you went.
I was 35.
35. So you're a good 15 years older than Ivan and Brian, and
Yeah.
they were a bunch of kids. And then when you went to the next group with Trammell and Jonathan and Jay, they were seriously kids at that point. I used to get tickled to death listening to Gary Jones imitating you when Danny would come ride the bus.
Oh yeah, I tell you, when I'd go ride the bus, I was so excited. I'd be up for days, excited about getting on that bus because, I was a wild kid running around, and especially looking back, I know I got on everybody's nerves, and that made Dad self-conscious.
Yeah.
If I'd have brought my young kids
Same
on the
way.
bus,
Yeah.
it would have got on everybody's nerves, and he was real self-conscious. So I didn't get to go a lot, but every now and then he'd let me and Jerry's son Jason, we'd go, and Jerry Ritchie's son,
Yeah.
and it was. I used to get so excited about being able to get on that bus, and it was so much fun. But Dad used to, he would tell me to get somewhere. He'd say, "Son, get somewhere. You're bothering me."
Gary would throw his hands up. Danny, son, get somewhere. You're bothering me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've used that line a few times with my kids through the years.
So you've had two sons that have followed kind of in your footsteps in
Right.
gospel music. Did you ever think early on that your sons would be carrying out,
Well, I hope they would, but then I hope they wouldn't,
Yeah, that's me.
because it's not an easy life.
He never. He encouraged me in the fact that I wanted to sing, but he never he tried to encourage me to go in other directions, and he couldn't get it out of me, and so one thing that like I said, looking back now, one thing that I truly appreciate about my dad is that he made me work to get where I am. I started when we moved back from Dahlonega over on Belmar Circle. They would do those 3 cassette packs, and he would pay me a nickel a piece to put rubber bands around them. So that was kind of my first job with Gold City. And then I through the years, Dad, I guess I did just about everything you can do.
Now, did you have to go back and fix the rubber bands, or did he do them right?
He did them right.
Oh, good. All right. He's pretty good with stuff like
Hey,
that.
I earned my nickel, and that was good money for a 12, 13-year-old boy.
Absolutely. Hey, y'all, this is Josh with Gold City, and we want to tell you about our latest radio single written by our good friend, former Gold City alumni, and producer Gary Jones. Gary wrote this song about 6 or 7 months ago, and he brought it to us for our he honestly wrote it for our latest album because we needed a few more songs, and it turned out to be one of the just absolute most favorite songs on the album, and it has a lot of special meaning now since Gary's went home to be with the Lord. It's called Rise Up. We want you to call your local radio stations and request this. We know you're going to love it. So tell me about when the Gold City thing started happening, that live album came out. When did it because that was lean years when y'all were in Dahlonega. When did it where you saw that it was going to take off and be successful? Was there a moment?
Not really.
Really?
$500 dates were.
Yeah.
I'll never forget the first time we got 3,000. I thought I'd died and gone to heaven.
Was that in the 80s?
Yeah.
That would have been. Was it the one thing about Gold City was the songs. Now, you always had great singers, but there was something about the Gold City songs that just touch people. They just and they do to this day. We sing those songs, and people to this day go crazy over it and love it. Was it
those songs are what brought Gold City to the dance.
Yeah.
And you don't ever forget that. I remember Jay couldn't stand to sing Gold City's old songs.
Oh.
And I couldn't get it over to him. That's what brought us to the dance.
Yeah, and they stood the test of time. We still sing them now, but the difference is we love singing them. We probably get on Danny's nerves a little bit because of all the songs we want to sing, because we were all huge fans of what y'all did back then.
Well, if I go hear a group, I want to hear the songs that they made famous.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
And when Jay and John, when Jay came, I mean, he was just a kid. He wanted to forge his way and do Gold City songs that they recorded, which they did. But in the meantime, as you develop into the next era of Gold City, you can't stop doing what everybody wants to hear.
Right.
And of course, Jay wised up to that. He was
young.
He was
like 20,
if that.
Yeah. That's one thing about it. You've always got a lot of young singers too, because Brian Free was.
He was 18.
Yeah, Gary was 18, 19. Now, Ivan had a little more years on him. Ivan had been with the Singing Americans.
Yeah.
So when he came in, 83 was when Ivan came. And then to tell everybody, so Mr. Beck ended up passing away. Floyd passed away.
He passed away in 1984.
Yeah.
And Dad could tell this probably better than I can, but my memory was that, Dad, you had decided, if my memory is correct, you had decided to come off the road from Gold City. And so we moved back home to Gadsden, and during that time, the other guys in the group were trying to get him to stay.
Was that after Mr. Beck had passed away?
No,
Okay.
he was suffering with cancer at that time, and they talked Dad into staying, but he said, if y'all want me to be with the group, y'all gonna have to come over here. So that's when the group relocated to Gadsden. Floyd had passed away, and then that's when Gold City relocated. Is that factual, what I just said?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So, but at that time, Gold City didn't have an owner, because when he passed away, so that's when it became a partnership, and Ivan, Brian, you, and Gary formed Gold City that became
right. And
the Gold City.
Floyd's wife, Mary Ann, she didn't know anything about it. She didn't, so when Floyd passed away, she just set them out. They didn't have nothing. They had to find a bus and sound equipment and everything.
It was starting all over again.
It was starting all over at that point. Of course, now, look, I didn't know any of this stuff as I was growing up. I didn't know the story about Dad leaving Gold City until later. And, when you're a kid, your parents, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. When we lived in Dahlonega, Mom and Dad got out and planted a garden and were canning. And, as a kid, I thought they just enjoyed doing it. But the truth was,
that's how you ate.
I remember when we lived in Dahlonega, you'd go down to Grindle store, and we lived in Grindle Holler. But you'd go down to their little store, and they would give you their produce that was going bad, and he'd bring it home and cut the bad parts off of it. And
what was the chicken story? Was it the chicken with the shake and bake? Was that what it was? You remember that?
And we took it out of the oven, and it had worms all over it.
No.
And he was so upset.
The chicken was fine, but the shake and bake had worms in it or something.
Right. And he had splurged.
Yeah.
They didn't have any money. He had splurged. I remember how upset he was. I didn't really know why at the time, but they had splurged and got that chicken. And he was so excited about it, put that shake and bake on it. Mama cooked it, and then they found the worms. That's a story that I remember.
Well, the thing about it is that was the early years of when Gold City was getting established. But when Gold City caught on, and those songs started hitting the radio success, it became something that was really incredible.
Oh yeah.
What was that? I know I've talked to Gary about this because him and I have been friends for all those years. Did y'all realize what was happening? Did you understand that what was happening with Gold City as far as what y'all were doing on a big scale?
Oh yeah.
It was y'all were noticing how things were taking off.
Well, I did.
That's why I go back, because in 94, 93, 94 is when the transition took place. And Ivan decided he wanted to do the solo thing, and Brian decided he wanted to go do his thing. That was heartbreaking.
Oh, it gutted me.
Well, it was to us as fans, and that's something Danny's never really understood. From a fan standpoint, that's like the Eagles busting up or something. You know, it was.
I was 8 years old. I remember 8 or 9, and I grew up in North Carolina, close to the. My grandfather knew one of the Down East boys really well, and that's, back then, to get news, you either had to wait till the singing news came out.
Oh yeah.
Because there was no social media. Nobody knew anything right then.
No,
There was no press releases that were released on a website or social media. So the way that I found out that Gold City was going through changes was my grandfather's friend had worked with y'all, or he was in it because he was with the Down East boys, and so he told my grandfather. He said, "Well, I think Gold City's breaking up." That was the rumor, and of course the reality was that they were just losing 2 members. But I didn't want to listen to Gold City after that, and it took until Jonathan came with the group that and again, it's the songs that bring them back. And it's still the cross was coming back around, and I'm Not Giving Up was a big hit. It was not until a few years later when they really started regaining their ground that I started listening to them again, because that was devastating.
Well, see, I was 18 years old, and when that was in 93, so I was 16, 17, 18 years old during that time. You remember the Bible outlet in Boaz? Y'all remember that? Boaz had all the outlets, and that was, they had a Bible outlet, and you could go up there and get whatever music you wanted. Well, I'd had to be 93. I was 16 or 17. I was driving. Well, I had bought Pillars of Faith when y'all came to Boaz, when they opened that Tom Bevel Center, the big Bevel Center up there. When they first opened it, the city had Gold City in, and it was you and Steve and Ivan and Brian and Gary and the band, Mark and Doug. And that was the first time y'all had really staged with Gary using all the orchestration on DAT. Was it on DAT?
Yeah, we called it a DAT.
Yeah.
It stood for digital audio tape.
Yeah.
That was one of the first digital mediums that we had.
So that's what they were using. Gary would have to, what thing would wind because it was like a cassette, but it was really fast.
Yeah, you could set memory locations on it. So, yeah, it was complicated back then compared to what it is now, but they pulled it off.
Y'all walked out and started with "'Tis So Sweet to Trust in Jesus" a cappella around one mic, and you projected just as much as they did. That's what was always mind-blowing about your voice, was your projection because most bass singers can't do that, to project that voice. And from there, and then "If God Be For Us" hit that, and buddy, I was all I wanted to do was sing with Gold City from that point forward. That was it. I'd heard enough. But I bought Pillars of Faith that night, and then Acapella Gold was not out. I went back up to the Bible outlet. A buddy of mine, Chad Hill, was working up there, and when I picked up Acapella Gold, he said, they're about to bust up. And I said, what? And he said, Ivan and Brian's leaving Gold City. And I was devastated. I mean, it was like the president had died or something. I mean, it was horrible. But then I found out Steve was staying. Steve was going to stay and slide over to lead, and you hired Mark and got Jay. And say, I love that album. That Renewed album was just an incredible album to me. But you went through that change. You're losing. Ivan Parker was as big of a star in gospel music as there was at that time. He was male vocalist of the year, lead singer of the year, and then y'all were winning everything awards-wise at that time. So for you to go through and lose, and Brian was tenor of the year, I mean, that wildly popular. You lost both of them and 2 of your partners, and then to come back and regroup and do what you did, and then it took a little while. not to me, because I thought the Steve singing lead was great, but then David Hill was just an incredible singer to me. Then that had that sound, that full sound again, and then you ended up getting Jonathan, and it took off again. And that was probably the second time with Jonathan and Jay that it kind of hit. That was probably the best years of your time traveling as far as the success of Gold City. Once
It was.
you just had to put up with Jay and Jonathan.
Yeah.
He used to call the bus a romper room.
They loved to pick at one another.
Oh yeah, and Doug was good at instigating a lot of that. I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about earlier. Doug and Jonathan would set Danny up for Tim to get on Danny, and it's just a lot of shenanigans going on.
You know, Dad had 2 sons in the group, and he never wanted anybody to think that we got special treatment, and
Right.
we didn't.
Yeah.
So he kept us in line, and we got no special treatment, which we shouldn't have.
No, but he was probably a little harder on y'all than just to protect. I mean,
Well,
'cause
we
you
were
don't-
not only on the bus; we were his sons.
Right.
So he
It's a
was
different
still
animal.
He was still raising us when
Yeah.
we got out there.
So Doug started when he was how old was Doug when he started playing drums?
He was 19, 18. No, he was 18.
18.
He finished his last year of high school, and he was traveling with them. Not all the time, but on select dates, outdoor dates, and all that. And then he eventually just ended up, because they had started just using Gary and Jeff Hullander.
Yeah.
They didn't have a full band. So eventually, as Doug would go out and do certain dates, then they brought Doug on.
And I've talked to different people about this, but that had to be tough for y'all to be, when you had just the 2. You had Jeff and Gary playing piano and bass, to go out with the Hensons or the Happy Goodman family, or all those groups that had the Kingsmen that had the live band. And when at that during that time, Gold City was just traveling with piano and bass, kind of like the Cathedrals did. But still, Gold City would end up as the headliner. I thought it was mind blowing to me that with all the Hensons, the Kingsmen, the groups with the bands, Gold City could go out there with just a piano and bass and just
It was incredible.
absolutely slay a crowd.
And Dad, I know that as that transition took place, I mean, I remember I was about 21 when Ivan and Brian decided to leave, and I mean, I remember the stress that Dad had on him as he was trying to find the right people to come in and rebuild the group. But he never gave up. He stuck in there with it, and he made it work. He had great, talented guys, and he was able to pull it together. But I don't think people realize behind the scenes that was a rough time for you.
It was. But Birmingham was Brian and Ivan's last date,
The BJCC.
and we sold well over $10,000 worth of product that night.
Josh was there that night.
Oh yeah, I was there the last night of Ivan and Brian, there in the Boutwell when you came out. They did the first half, and then when you came back out with the Kingsmen, it was Jay and Mark. Steve had shifted over. That was an incredible night.
I wasn't even there.
You weren't? Where were
No,
you?
I went to Atlanta to Bill Gaither's Jubilate. That was New Year's Eve.
That was a huge deal back then too. But that place Boutwell Auditorium was packed. And you talk about selling that amount of product. We can't even dream about that because times have changed so much.
Yeah.
Now you don't buy music, and I would think back then, what was it? Probably VHS tapes and CDs and cassettes.
Yeah.
That would have been it that you were
Yeah.
selling. So that was all music. There might have been a T-shirt. Did they have T-shirts?
Oh yeah,
Did
they had T-shirts. You know, probably starting in the well, it would have been the latter '80s when y'all started carrying T-shirts. Because to this day, there's people that would show up at our concerts to this day wearing a T-shirt from back in the late '80s.
Well, there was a lady that came to the Carolina Gold thing that we did, and she didn't have it with her. She couldn't find it, but she had one of the old T-shirts that had just about every member. She had gotten it signed, and it had all the different. She was telling me about it, all the
Wow.
different. Yeah,
That's a treasure.
it is. We'd love to have it. I know that.
Yeah, I don't have it. Of course, you know, growing up around Gold City, I never knew what was happening. That was just normal to me. So I never thought to get stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
Ask my dad for his autograph.
I'm sure you asked for it a few times on the check,
But people will bring me stuff every now and then that they just feel like I'd like to have, you know.
Yeah.
So I've got some things that I treasure. I've got a set of drumsticks that my brother signed that for somebody that it was actually a set of brushes, and he brought them and gave them to me, and you know, that's something I treasure.
yeah. And you got a lot of albums you're singing on with your dad.
Yeah, and that was, you know, that was the highlight of my life. I'll never forget. I worked in the studio. I had a scholarship to go to college. And boy, this made you mad, Dad. I went for about 2 weeks, and I was like, I'm not
Can't
doing
do it.
this. So I was real interested in sound and recording studios and all that. So, of course, I'd been working in the studio, but in 1990, I think it might have been 92, Dad sent me to recording engineering school, and I did all of Gold City's recording from then till probably 2006. But we were finishing up Preparing the Way, the album Preparing the Way. David Hill was singing lead here, and we were done with the album, hadn't mixed it yet, and David Hill decided to leave. So Jonathan came in, and so we went back in the studio and cut him on. We didn't do every single song, but it's still, we ran out of time. It's Still the Cross. We never.
There were heavy deadlines back then.
Yes,
you had
very
to have
heavy,
them done.
because you had physical product that had a release date, and so we didn't get that done, and they left on the road, and I had a hard deadline, and I asked Dad. I said, "What are we going to do about it? Still the Cross? Do you want to leave it on the record? Do you want to take it off?" And his words to me were, "Son, you just sing it." So they left, and I recorded It's Still the Cross, and we got the mix done, and that's how I sang that song. He didn't set out to give me a cameo on the record, but that was the beginning of my singing career.
Was that really it, or did you have it in your mind for Danny to sing that? Was it really just get it done?
I didn't like the song.
Oh,
Too contemporary.
it was. Now, it was different. It was different back then.
But you ended up liking it after you got used to it.
Powerful song.
Yeah.
The message in it. Yeah. Well, it's like it was made for Danny. That song, I remember hearing it when it first came out. Because it wasn't, nobody knew that.
Right, I didn't.
I was trying to figure out who it was as a listener.
Yeah, I had never really sang with Gold City. You know, I'd never been around Gold City fans as a singer. So, you know, there were a lot of people that, were like, and then I went on the road in 96 and ran sound for Gold City, and he would bring me up to sing that song.
But you had already cut a solo album.
Yes,
by that time.
I did.
Yeah.
But he would bring me up on stage to sing that song every night, and that that was just another part. I mean, it was the thrill of my life. I had been involved in Gold City for years and years, but I wanted to be on that stage.
Yeah.
And Dad didn't let me on that stage till I was ready.
So was that what it was? Because you knew he wanted to be on stage.
Oh, yeah.
But you wanted him to be prepared and ready.
I didn't want him to embarrass me.
Well, it's almost worked out. What else you got? We're running a little long.
I feel like Danny's gonna have a son so he can carry on Gold City.
I think that's a good idea.
That bit star in the east.
And just like that.
Oh yeah, that I'll just say that there's been measures taken. That'll never happen. But I wanted a son, but it just wasn't in the cards. And I have two beautiful daughters that have me wrapped around
And both can sing.
they're wrapped around my little finger, and
Both can sing great. Too.
they can. But
Yep.
of course, they're going in different directions. But being Father's Day, it was the thrill of my life to be able to travel and sing with my dad. And it was one of them things that standing next to him every night, I never got used to his voice. And, a lot of people say working with their dad was hard, people that do that. And it was hard, but it was because he was preparing me for this. If this is what I was going to do, he wanted me to go out and figure it out. I sang with a local group from Pell City, and he pretty much said, if you want to do this, son, you go after it. They're wanting that, but I'm thankful that I had a dad that cared enough to. He never handed me anything on a silver platter, and he, Dad was always, told me. It's kind of funny, and this is something some people will go, "Oh Lord, I can't believe." But he was tough on me. My singing, when I would be emceeing, he would critique me, and I'll never forget. We were singing outside one time, and he'd say stuff behind me sometimes, try to get me on track, and of course I was offended by it a lot. And we came off stage one day, and I said, "Dad, do I do anything right?"
Oh boy.
And he said, "Son, you do a lot of things right, but I ain't gonna carry you around in my palm and pet you and coddle you, But to be able to have a dad like that made me appreciate what I do and what I've been able to carry on from him, I'm so thankful for that. And I've learned a lot of lessons on my own. He told me everything I needed to know, but, some of them things I thought I was smarter than him.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, at 52, and Dad will be 80 this year, every year that passes, he gets smarter, It's like I realized that. But I'm thankful, I'm thankful for a great dad. He wasn't just a great dad from a music standpoint, but even being on the road all those years, he was a great dad to me, and still is. I live right across the street over here from him, so anytime I need some wisdom, some advice, he's right here for me, and I'm thankful for that.
Well, then you've done a good job, Tim. I can't tell you from somebody that works for somebody else and with somebody else, there's not a better person to be on a bus with or that you've got to rely on for your living and for what we do than your son, Danny. He's done a fantastic job with this group.
I expect nothing less.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to tell the folks?
I miss y'all.
Yeah.
If I ever get over this, I want to come back out. Of course, I know the chances of that are 0 to none.
I wouldn't say that.
I wouldn't either. No.
They're never 0.
Well, we're gonna have to do this again sometime if you don't mind. I know what's gonna happen when this gets out. People are going to want to hear more from Mr. Tim. So we may bother you again sometime. We sure do. Thank you.
Today was sort of a little bit of history and a little bit of Father's Day, but Dad, you could do 20 podcasts with him. He's got so many great stories, road stories. So yeah, I hope that y'all will. I say y'all because, this is the first podcast I've been a part of.
Well, I have a feeling if you get to be on any more, we'll need to come over here with your dad so you can take advantage of your dad again.
That's fine. I just want to be a part. But yeah, he's got a lot of great stories that I know people would love to hear. So I hope that we can do this again in the future.
I think it's been great. And Tim, thank you so much for inviting us in your home. And Josh said his at the beginning, but I'm going to say thank you for allowing us to carry on this tradition and this legacy that you've started. And it's the honor of my life to be able to say that I sing with my favorite group, and that's because of, like Josh said, the road that you paved and have worked hard for your whole life early in the beginning is the reason we get to do what we love to do. And so I just want to say thank you. It's been a great time, and we want to wish all you folks out there a happy Father's Day.
Just the fathers.
Yeah. But we'll see you again here pretty soon.
I ain't seen anybody.
No, we won't see them. We won't see him. Chris will misspeak every once in a while on something. I'm right here to get on him whenever he does.